pretty fascinating. I love that video. And when you think about it in terms of who created God, if you want to blow your mind, just sit there and think about what was God doing in eternity? And at what point in eternity did he create us? Because if I'm at this point in eternity, where am I at the continuum of eternity if eternity goes on forever? I'm nowhere. I can go way over here on the timeline of eternity, and where am I at on the timeline of eternity? I'm nowhere on the timeline of eternity. So where do we get time? God created time. As soon as he created a piece of matter, that thing was stamped with time. It was part of his creation. It's amazing, amazing concept when you settle into the idea that God has always existed. Try to do that for a little while. Yes.
Does that video Lane's book in a nutshell?
It's one piece of his book in a nutshell. But Reasonable Faith is his ministry, and he does these sorts of things. But it's a great video to capture what I'm talking about. But that's not all, okay? There's more here. Here's the moral argument. Now, the moral argument is a little bit different because it has to do with kind of the characteristic of a creator. And the person behind this is, who is this? C.S. Lewis. We all love C.S. Lewis. He's my favorite writer. He's my favorite thinker. I could read C.S. Lewis all day long, and then my family would hate me. But anyways, because I would never do anything else. But here's what he said, and he kind of came up with this idea of the moral law. He says, if after you have realized that there is a real moral law and a power behind that law, and that you have broken that law and put yourself wrong with that power, it is after all of this, and not a moment sooner, that Christianity begins to talk. Embedded in the very fabric of all of creation is this moral law. Even those who claim to be atheists will make claims like, well, you ought to do this and you ought to do that. Well, where do they get that from? Why should I ought to do anything? Because you're making a moral claim at that point in time, and you didn't get moral realities from a natural process. A rock and other sort of processes in an inanimate fashion cannot give you a moral kind of compass here. So let's take a look at this video. It's really cool.